What is the name of this session? This is great. You're shocked by me. All right. Okay. Thank you all for coming. This session is Innovation and Informality about locally led climate action in cities. Yes. So we're going to start with a couple of different things. First, I was going to do a Mentimeter, but maybe we'll just go old school. So I have a water bottle from the Cities Alliance. Oh, I should introduce myself. Yeah, that's usually good. My name is Julie Greenwald. I'm the Senior Climate Advisor at Cities Alliance. So we're going to have a video today from Zambia. And then we're going to have a panel discussion about locally led climate action in cities. But before that, I have a giveaway, which is a water bottle filled with chocolates from Belgium. And so this is the question. First person to get it close. I mean, really, we're a small enough group, so I think everyone can participate. So I love everyone taking a picture of me with this water bottle. I'm trying to bribe people in. So the question is, we did a study recently about the percentage of projects funded by the global climate funds that have a focus on urban poverty and informality and informal settlements. Over the past 20 years, what percentage of all of the global climate fund projects, GCF, GEF, Adaptation Fund, do you think had a focus on urban poverty and informality? So the person who gets closest will win the water bottle. Any guesses? What percentage? Some people heard this. I think I told some people in a panel yesterday and other people at dinner last night. So I'm going to give it to people who I didn't.
2%.
Oh my God, you got it right. Did you read my report already? Okay. That was really impressive, actually. Well done. Sorry. What is your name? I know, right? What is your name?
Bethany from Life AR.
Okay, great. All right. So with that, now we're going to switch over to, hopefully, if the tech person is paying attention, to a video. Excellent.
I woke up this morning and you won't believe what happened last night. I could hear cats and dogs barking and meowing. I almost woke up akati pa usiku to start praying and binding, thinking maybe batwingilila kundoshi mumaziva che ine kwatu. But when I opened my eyes, to my surprise, it was actually raining cats and dogs and my roof was badly leaking. You know how Malataya Kwatu have more holes than a disco club? And half of my roof was already blown off by the harsh winds of the night. Everyone can relate how it gets to be. Chimpepo, Chapa 0203. My bed was baptized in the unforgiving rains. My sheets were soaked and wet. You should have seen my kitchen. It was floating spoons and plates. Wow. So I guess this mess was not only in my house, but a good perimeter of the entire community was affected. A few infected, tombs erected, and sadly, I hear others saying that our ignorance is ignorantly oppressing us, and I'm like, what do you mean by such? And they say we are being perpetrated by the results of climate change because our doings are just anthropogenic. Iwe boy, inekwatu ni kuma informal settlements. Iyo vocabulary yako usinipangilako sense. So explain to me what you're trying to illustrate na ayo ma sentiments. And they say, we are the actual cause of these effects, but I tell them to hold as I take 1 minute and think. And so I say we are much more of victims than we are perpetrators of the system. Maybe yes, we unknowingly contribute to factors that fracture us, but Tivizibe is Sevama change and all that, because what we think of is how we are going to survive, and that is what is important. It's not like I'm trying to be ignorant, that I do not want to make it all better and contribute to mitigating these effects caused by this change in climate. There is just this different change that I get to see below my gullet. And that is the increase of sound produced by my stomach each time my hunger scores a go. And so I'm disturbed. Okay, what do you expect? Should I focus on going out to plant a tree when the last time I checked, the breakfast I had was just an aroma of tea coming from my neighbor's house? It's not my fault. I'm just that helpless fellow, put in a dilemma to debate between fighting for the climate or fighting for my stomach. Cause look, at times I ask myself, should I plant a tree or should I cut one to sell so I can be able to buy myself some tea? Cause hey, I think in Equatu, tiliko na serious pressure ka climate change happening in our stomachs, and it seems everyone is trying to ignore that, you see. So tell me why I should stand outside my door and advocate for climate justice as a solution when I can just navigate the little strength I have left in finding what to eat so I can get rid of my malnutrition. Cause listen, hunger is what is driving us, and we are passengers sitting in the seats of our empty pots, pans and plates. And I don't think I should spend the whole day worrying about floods in my community. Niziba iyo ninchito ya ma councillors, ma WDCs, nabaja ma MP. So imwe, explain to me why I should prioritize this climate agenda when I am seeing death in form of hunger trying to put my life asunder. You come to me telling me about greenhouse and what things. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but that to me just doesn't make any sense. If somebody chose to have his house painted green, why should that be a problem to me? I have stomach issues to sort out, for Christ's sake. So let me waste my time. Mukusaki lako ya steak. Preachers say man cannot live by bread alone, but in Equatu, man cannot live when he is dead and gone. So please give me this day my daily bread, that I may have strength to be resilient and not daily beg. Cause here in the informal settlements, the language we speak is survival and resilience. So please bear with me and don't judge me if I do not get your message. Perhaps it's just too complicating and too confusing. So just make all this simple for my understanding. Cause in Equatu, I'm standing in a battlefield faced with two deadly enemies. One has weapons like heat waves, heavy rains, floods, sometimes drought, and I can see pollution. But this other one is starvation. So which battle should I fight first? Oku, Kwatu.
Okay. With that, I'm going to invite my panel to come up, and I'll introduce you. And also, we have Bright, who's come up. He's online. Yeah. I'm okay. Yeah. Okay. So, are you coming? Okay. Great. Yes. All right, I'll start at this end. So this is Jessica Hitt. She's the Associate Director for Adaptation and Resilience at ClimateWorks Foundation. And next to her, we have Namrata Ginoya. We didn't practice your last name, so I hope I got that right. The Strategic Policy Lead for Global Resilience Partnership. And then we have Clara Gallagher, the Climate Finance Advisor for Life AR for IIED. And Joseph Manarenga. Oh, I didn't practice this one either. Manaregena. Great. Senior Program Officer with Slum Dwellers International Secretariat. And this is Dr. Matthew French from Monash University. And online, we have Bright from Know Your City, Zambia, who was the author of the video that we just saw. So we're going to have 2 rounds of questions. So the first one is about successful community-led initiatives. So Joseph, I'm going to start with you. With SDI, Slum Dwellers International, what are some of the successful community-led initiatives on climate change that SDI has been involved with?
Oh, thank you so much. And Thanks for inviting us. I think what I was thinking to say is already said by a colleague in Zambia. So I will be brief because the poem he just presented, it really shows what life they live in slum dwellers. But also it shows slum dwellers who are not wanting to remain in problems but wanting solution. But the question he posed is between death and life. But let me start by, before I say maybe one or two success stories, who is SDI and what we do. I think it will also give a context of what we do. So we are a global network of urban poor. We are into more than 22 countries and living in informal settlement. We are in Africa, Latin America, Asia, all the way. And the main work, the federation members supported by NGOs, is to mobilize themselves. Because once you are mobilized, once you work together, at least you fight together instead of fighting alone. Some of the activities they do in the communities, it's community mobilization. They also do enumeration and profiling, which is so key also to the work of climate change and the other work, because once they have their data, once they know how many they are, what are the challenges, it's easy to advocate for their challenges. But also they do advocacy. They use those data collected and they do advocacy. Coming up to your questions, what are some of the success stories? There are many, but I will maybe focus on 2 or 3, just briefly. One of the work they do and which really I'm going to advocate here that so that we can really mobilize more funds. They have managed to come together and then start, for example, if I give an example, most of the informal settlement in Kenya, informal settlement in Senegal where we work, they came together, and then women mostly, who are the most number in the federation, they organize themselves. They put a little, you can imagine most of them, they are unemployed, but they put a little, they form savings, some daily, others weekly, and then they manage to start even building together houses. And then some countries, government, local government have come in. I can give a quick example, like Namibia. In the past 2 years, they managed to mobilize around 2 million USD between themselves in 1 year, and then they started building houses. So far, in the past at least 10 years, the federation members, they built themselves 7,000 housing with bricks, which is now being connected to electricity. So they did this together with government because they were more organized, and then private sector come in, such as the bank. Once the federation members put together a small fund, they buy land, and then the banks bring also some support. Some others have started gardening within the very small spaces, and then also they've managed to come up with, because most of the challenges, as our colleague in Zambia just showed, they are faced by flood. All of us, when the disaster hit, it hit bad. But when it comes to slum dwellers, because of the nature of their houses, they are not so strong. They live next to rivers, so it hits so bad. But they have been able to mobilize themselves to start some initiatives. And then one last is such as the KYC TV. It's an SDI youth initiative where young people themselves, they come, they collect data, they do the advocacy, and they showcase within their own stories. You've seen how this poem really, it shows some emotion. It shows what is happening. They are not hiding anything. That's also one of the success. Thank you.
Thank you. because panels are exciting, thank you. I'm going to have to ask you all now to leave the stage because we have a quick interruption to the program. Oh, you want to? Okay, they can stay. Okay, great. We'll have a brief interlude.
I should use this one, maybe. I'm sorry to disturb, but we have a special guest on this SDG Pavilion. This is the 6th year that we are doing as DESA, but there is actually team here supporting. But with the team, we also have a father of the SDG Pavilion. It actually happened when current Chinese, the special envoy for climate change, Mr. Liu Zhenming, was the head of UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs. It was under his initiative this SDG Pavilion was conceived. With this introduction, Mr. Liu, would you mind coming over here to be able to say a few words? Thank you very
much. My fellow colleagues from UN DESA and also participants at this event at the UN SDG Pavilion, I think, I served in DESA for 5 years. It's okay? Yes. Okay. Then during my first session at the COP, in Bonn in 2017, I found that most of the organizations, most of the member states have these pavilions during the COP, and they organize different events. So I talked with my colleagues at the Department of United Nations, looking after the follow-up of the 2030 agenda. So we need also set up our own pavilion during the COP for the facilitation of a dialogue on the implementation of the SDGs. So we got some resources. We started in 2018 in Katowice. That's why my colleague Minoru has mentioned to me. Now this year we have commemorating our 6 years of UN SDG Pavilion here. So I wish this pavilion will continue to be support the implementation of SDGs, and actually there is a big gap in the implementation of SDGs. We really need to push to all the member states, all the parties, as well as all the stakeholders, and the international community to speed up the process of implementation and for the achievement of 2030 agenda by 2030. So that's why I should encourage you to make good use of SDG Pavilion, to exchange your ideas, and also make your voice louder to governments, to organizations, even to United Nations. And also encourage my colleagues in DESA to make good use of resources. I think that because to continue the practice, because this pavilion would present to the world, to the climate community, to be in the United Nations, we are the corner, and we are the pillar for supporting SDGs. So I'm so proud you have this pavilion, and this year's pavilion much bigger. You have larger space and good facilities for all. Yeah. So I want to thank you and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. Could we have a group photo? DESA colleagues, please come over here to have would you mind standing up, and as well that if we can take a photo together? Thank you. Please, would you like to?
USG Liu, I want to tell you that this pavilion this year is special in a sense that we have the forest pavilion within the SDG pavilion. So it's good to mention it because to show the interlinkages between forest and SDG. Thank you.
You're welcome. No problem. I mean, this session has everything, guys, right? High-level participation, videos, giving out chocolate water bottles. It's just, you have to roll with it. It's COP. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program to talk about locally led climate action. Bright, are you still online? Sorry for that interruption. You're muted right now. Could you unmute? Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Hey, Julie.
Yes.
I can get you loud and clear.
Oh, great. There you are. Nice to see you. Welcome to your first COP participation, even if it's virtual. It's nice to have you. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
We had a little interruption, but we're back. And before we stopped, Joseph talked a little bit about Know Your City. And I know you're very passionate about youth participation and youth voices being heard. And so I just wanted to hear from you about what you think about youth-led climate action and what you were doing in Zambia to really ensure that youth are part of climate solutions. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Hi, everyone. As said, my name is Javiu Bright Lwembe. I'm a member of the Know Your City TV team here in Zambia, and also working with People's Process on Housing and Poverty in Zambia, PPHPZ, and Slum Dwellers International. So as a youth, part of the team of the Know Your City TV Zambia, we've been engaged in a lot of activities and different initiatives that we are bringing on board in line with tackling this algebra called climate change. And we've been doing a few activities in line with climate action as Know Your City TV Zambia that have helped us, mobilize and also raise awareness in the community, people that have no idea what really climate change is all about, and they had difficult languages that are every day used in the climate space that these people at grassroots level find hard to understand. So we've taken it upon ourselves to, just make sure that everyone, no one is left behind, and everyone understands the beast that we are all trying to, bring down and fight, which is climate change. So as youths here in Zambia, as Know Your City TV, we have been doing data collection in different regions of the province known as Lusaka province. So we did data collection as part of the work that we do as Know Your City TV Zambia. Data collection in a region known as Kafue, just to gather information and to understand how people have been impacted with these climate change effects, how people are responding, how people are living, and just to know on how best we can bring up solutions, come up with initiatives that will help tackle the problems that people in these affected areas are facing. The other thing is that we've been gathering stories in other different regions of the province, Lusaka province, which is Chongwe, just to bring on board the knowledge on what people are doing. Yes, we understand that people have been affected, but what are some of the local initiatives that people are implementing in order for them to be to remain resilient, to adapt and also mitigate the impacts of climate change. So we've been gathering stories, qualitative information that has helped us to just come up with doable solutions, not just talking every time, but implementing action in the community. This is a real thing that is happening, and people at grassroots level are affected. Yes, quite right. A lot of them do not understand, but the impacts are real, the effects are real, and we cannot ignore that. So quite right, yeah, people are coming up with an initiative, and these are stories that we've been gathering in order, to just amplify their voices, in order for them to put and add a voice in the climate space as well, so that they are also visible, so that in spaces like the COP or the World Urban Forum, they are also known. Their voices are also, heard. There are other activities that we've been doing here in Zambia as Noyo City TV is that we create videos, documentaries, stories like the video, the poem that you've just seen. We use media, we use art to communicate and just raise awareness, to spread this information and knowledge and make sure that everyone is aware of what is going on. Everyone gets to participate, everyone gets to add a voice in the climate fight. And these videos, they're not just made for fun. Actually, they are made to educate, to raise awareness, and to impact people's life and to influence action in the community, especially at grassroots level. Sometimes not everyone gets to have a chance to be at the COP like this in order for them to learn and understand what they can do in line with climate action. But through a video, while watching a video, entertainment plus education, we call it edutainment, in order for people, to yeah, I know the word is amazing. I love to use it, edutainment. In order for people to, to be entertained, at the same time to be educated. Like that, we influence action, we inspire action in people, and people get to, to jump on board and implement initiatives. Are you able to get me, Julie and everyone?
Yep.
Okay.
Last word.
But not the least. Yeah, sure. There's a campaign that we're doing here in Zambia. Actually, it was something that was pioneered, that is being pioneered by the youth. It's called the Shifting Power to Local Actors campaign, where we get to bring on board grassroots actors, climate actors, and just to give them a platform in order for them to just speak out, in order for them to advocate for their communities, for their informal settlements, and speak the solutions that they would want to see. A lot of people, like I said earlier, do not get to have the chance to be part of the panel like Joseph and the rest. So Shifting Power to Local Actors campaign brings on people in order for them, just to bring in ideas, initiatives, and speak their voice. And yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Bright. The Zambian internet held out for us. I'm really happy. All right, we're going to come back to you in the next round of questions. But next, I'm going to go to Matthew. First, I would like to notice how balanced the panel is. SDG 5, gender equality. I've really done well. But we're going to go to the men first, and then we'll come to the women, and then we'll reverse it for the next question. All right, so Matthew, I know Monash University is doing a lot in the Asia-Pacific region on resilient informal settlements. So just if you could share a little bit about the program and some examples about what are some of the innovative, locally led action you're doing there.
Great, thanks Julie, and thanks to the panel members and for hosting this event. Monash is based in Australia, but we have campuses in Indonesia and Fiji as well as Malaysia, China. But one of our programs which is relevant for this panel is the Revitalising Informal Settlements and Their Environments program. And here it's very much a sort of citizen science approach to innovating novel solutions for water and sanitation. So as we've heard already, putting communities at the centre of data collection, of understanding the environments and informal settlements, and using that data in ways to unlock new investments, both from the private sector, but also from government investments. And so as a university, what we're finding is we have a really great opportunity to give space or allow space for community groups to be more active in terms of the scientific research, understanding the impacts of poor water and sanitation on human health. So beyond just collecting numbers and the wonderful work that's done with enumerations, but building that evidence base around why investing in informal settlements is so critical. And as we heard earlier, such little of the climate finance reaches the urban poor. So we're hoping to be able to unlock some of that finance through some of these programs we're working on at the local levels.
Thanks, Matthew. I know the relationship between local communities and researchers can be a bit sticky sometimes, so I think what Monash is doing is really helping to improve those relationships and show how it can be beneficial to both. All right, ladies, I'm going to turn over to you now. So for each of you, I know your organizations work across different geographies and with different examples, and so just if each of you can share one of the most sort of inspiring, what you find inspiring and innovative in terms of locally led climate action that you've been engaged with or aware of through your work. I think you have mics there if you want to use them. We'll start with Clara and go down the line.
Thank you. I guess in the spirit of what the grandfather of the SDG Pavilion said, I'm going to do some amplifying. So my point will actually be speaking to all of Joseph's work and the Urban Poor Fund International as one example, even if one that we've known about for a while, that we at IIED, the International Institute for Environment and Development, we spend a lot of time trying to explain these principles to locally led adaptation to different groups along that climate finance chain, all the way from the donor to any intermediary organization and then those that are supporting implementation, about how you can co-design adaptation to be better for those who are actually experiencing climate change. And a lot of people get fixated on adaptation finance and, it's just about moving the money, it's just about access to finance. But actually, if you're trying to have more holistic inclusion of like young people, women, disabled people, and every intersection between that, then you need to not just think about moving money, but also think about how you're addressing structural barriers to being able to participate in decisions about what gets funded and where that decision's being made. Is it always at national government? Is it at state level? Is it municipal level? Or have choices been devolved even lower into community groups that addresses the structural inequalities between who can access, that you could look at how easy it is to access the funds in terms of like the paperwork you do, but what languages are you working in? Like who's doing the reporting? Who's carrying the burden of the risk for the finance, the risk for the program outcomes? Is that always being pushed downwards and downwards? Or actually can we start pushing it back upwards to those that have better abilities to handle that risk? And so actually the Urban Poor Fund is one that is exemplifying these things really well. And it's one that makes sense in cities and urban contexts. And so that is an example that we keep on holding up as an example to try and explain that locally led adaptation isn't just about money, it's about the whole 8 principles and how they interact together. So I'll leave it there.
I'm from Global Resilience Partnership, and we work through partnerships. So I'll give an example of one of our partners who's working in India, Mahila Housing Trust. Maybe many of you know about their work already. They set up a insurance program for about 26,000 families across 3 cities. Their work actually started with just painting the roofs white to reduce the heat risks. And then they realized that it's obviously not enough and there's more to be done. And one of the risks that they saw was that women and youth were losing days when it was too hot, income days. And this is what they came up with. They partnered with insurance agencies, they partnered with organizations who could make this happen on the ground. And they provided coverage for 26,000 families. And this year was obviously one of the hottest years, and it was really horrible in those regions of India. About 47 degrees temperatures for many weeks. And they were able to give out payouts to 2,000 people this year who lost income days this year. So that's a very local, and also this is one of the things that did need money and was empowered, and different kind of stakeholders coming together to make this happen. And there's another organization called Roof Over Our Heads, and that's more of a research work that they're trying to do. They're identifying what kind of materials are used for building construction by informal sector, and what we've seen them actually identify is how to tap into the waste recycling part of the cities because that's what is used for building materials. So what kind of waste is generated also impacts the kind of housing that is being built in informal sectors. And so there's this whole new economy, kind of new paths of materials that we are discovering, and would be interesting as we go forward and how to make use of that waste for building resilient housing in informal sectors.
I'll be quite brief because actually we have a similar example. But Jessica hit with the adaptation program at ClimateWorks Foundation, and one of the parts of my job is actually running a collaborative of funders who are looking to kind of move in and expand funding on adaptation. And one of the main areas we've been looking at is insurance and parametric insurance. And so a pilot program that we participated in at ClimateWorks was actually a partnership between SEWA and Climate Resilience for All that last summer piloted an extreme heat insurance program that basically, when there was a trigger day, women who worked in formal sectors actually received a payout, and so preventing kind of loss of income and heat related illnesses, etc. And I think one of the things that the philanthropic group is really interested in is looking at how that type of parametric insurance and social protections can be applied across other impacts. So not just after the fact, but also anticipatory. We've seen with flooding, providing payouts before the event occurs actually allows people to more specifically apply solutions in their context, whether that be actually preparing or moving, temporarily getting food, etc., and then as well as recovery methods afterwards. I think another quick program that we've been looking into are community trust grant programs, which are actually allowing kind of in Bangladesh, BRAC and the German, I'm going to forget the other funder, created a trust where basically local nonprofits can access finance for a whole host of adaptation measures, from awareness programs to infrastructure repair. And I think one thing that's specifically interesting about that model is it's not just short-term project funding, but more actually looking at more cyclical and long-term funding that's available for community partners.
Thanks, ladies. Great. Yep. Okay. So almost all of you started to touch on finance. So preempting my next round of questions, which is specifically about finance. And I mean, recognizing, one, that this has sort of been billed as the finance COP, and two, that there is a lot of focus, I think, on the sources of funding and maybe less focus on where that funding goes. And I think all of us here are very invested in making sure that funding goes to, locally led action and making sure that the priorities of local communities are met. So I know I'll start with the ladies this time. So I'll start with Clara. I know IIED has done a lot about locally led adaptation, and not just in urban areas, also in rural areas. And I think it'd be great. I don't know if you could share just a couple of recommendations. You talked about the principles that you would have in terms of, whether it's for local organizations or whether it's international organizations. Like, what are some of the recommendations for how we can ensure more finance reaches the local level?
Thank you. I think then now, maybe in my first answer, I was answering with my IIED hat on, and now it's more that I'm also a member of the Secretariat for the LDC Group's Life AR initiative, the LDC Initiative for Effective Adaptation and Resilience. And the whole way that they've structured this new way of looking at adaptation finance is actually to have the offers that the LDC group has made to the international community about how they will be trying to deliver adaptation in a way that's not just, running into the same wall again and again, because the amount of money that has been spent on adaptation over the last 20, 30 years hasn't led to the transformations that you would anticipate. And so why keep trying to do the same thing when it's not working? But in response, they also have asks of the international community about how they will also change their behavior to make funding more accessible and to facilitate the governments being able to devolve decision-making about how adaptation funds are being spent on whose priorities and who has a say in doing it. But setting all of that up is really, really hard. And one of the things that I think is coming out most clearly is that actually there's a huge disconnect between those who are having these great ideas about wanting to fund locally led adaptation, and then also their bookkeepers and accountants and risk managers in the background who have a very specific rule book about what can and cannot be funded. So having these people, the policy people, and then also those who are receiving the funds sitting together and working out, this particular clause makes it inflexible for us to deliver in accordance with what communities are actually asking for. This line means that we're being kept in a constant cycle of always having capacity building, but having no actual projects or scaling. And so when you start to look at how the different terms of a partnership are structured, then you can start tweaking them and trying out different things and giving yourself space to try it, maybe to fail, maybe to learn from it. But that's the very big premise that the LDC group is trying to work on now for their new initiative. So it's a work in progress, but I think it's so far hopefully going in the right direction to make it more flexible and more responsive to what people are wanting. So I'd change that rule book. Thank you.
Great. Namrata, I'm going to skip over you for a second and go back to Jessica. Sorry. Just switch it up. So, Jessica, you work with philanthropies. I know the philanthropic funders are, I think you guys are having a moment. So I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about, kind of what are philanthropies looking for when they're funding climate action, especially at the local level? And if you have any kind of tips for those of us who maybe haven't engaged as much in philanthropy and accessing those funds.
Yeah, philanthropy is definitely starting to have a moment. We need a bigger one, but we are starting to kind of mobilize. As I mentioned, I work with a group of 70 funders, and part of our goal is really actually to increase that finance flow from philanthropy, and locally led adaptation is definitely a large area of interest for those groups. I think a few notes that I took on just because over the last year, more or less, I've been doing a listening tour with them, hearing kind of what are your interests, where are your barriers, what can we kind of do to help you move further along this journey. But I think one thing I would say is that philanthropy is incredibly diverse, and they're often constrained themselves by their strategic visions, by their programmatic theories of change, and also often by their own donors. And so I think kind of listening to hear kind of what the frameworks of those are is really, really helpful starting point. As kind of these folks, some of them have been working in adaptation for a long time, and some of them are newer and moving in. I think kind of demonstrating that your work, the relationships and the trust you have with those frontline and most vulnerable communities is incredibly important, and kind of demonstrating the participatory processes that are elevated within your work. Partnerships, I think, are something that is quite important that philanthropy loves to look at. Coalitions within local governments, local actors, really kind of that ability to share and amplify impact is always very valued. Demonstrated co-benefits, so that can look across programs, because that can bring in additional funding from different streams within the foundation. So you're maybe improving resilience, but you're also creating jobs or reducing structural inequities. And then philanthropy loves an innovative finance model, so public-private partnerships or microfinance for entrepreneurs, etc. And then another one, which I think that I've heard a lot, is both the idea that it can be scalable or replicable, and whether the work actually in itself is, or whether it's just the idea that it can be seen as a model for work in other communities or other geographies is something that philanthropy is always particularly interested in. And then lastly is kind of demonstrating how to measure impact, and I think that can go beyond just did this X, Y, and Z happen, to kind of looking at more longer-term resilience measures and indicators. So I'll stop there.
Thanks. Great. All right, Namrata, back to you now. So you have an exciting new seed funding. Would you like to share that with everyone?
Yeah. So GRP is kind of known for doing innovation challenges. We've done a bunch in agriculture in Africa. We are just now, like, there's a parallel at the hub. We are launching the Hindu Kush Himalayas challenge. And so this one, we've been working with true partners in urban regions a lot. And what we've seen is the need for local solutions and the financing for extremely local solutions. And these are very small solutions. I'll briefly go back to another project where we started this from. We have another platform coming. I mean, I know, just too many platforms, but it's funded by Google to identify local solutions and then make them shareable across geographies. And there were solutions like just having built hydroponics on the structure of the roof, local food solution, as well as helps with urban heat as well. And the woman who suggested that solution, she was like, I made that happen, and I told other 10 women, and they have it on their roofs, and it works for them. I'm sure it'll work for another 100 women. They just need money. And the amount of money that was required is like $500. So it's a very small amount of money. And what we want to do is not just fund that. Like, that can be done through the platform. What we are thinking is, you go directly and give directly, maybe through a button, $500 to someone who wants to implement a solution. And the second one is launching this kind of innovation challenge where we want non-profits and for-profits both to come up with solutions to aggregate some of these solutions on the ground and try and fund those solutions. And so we are opening it up in January, and we'd like many different kinds of stakeholders across the globe working in some of these urban informal areas who know these solutions exist. Even academicians, they work with a lot of these organizations. If they have any solutions that they would want on the ground, very welcome, and I hope that we get a lot of applications.
Great. Me too. We will definitely at City Science help you amplify that call and get it up more broadly. Okay, so back to the guys. Thanks for being patient. I really appreciate it. So Matthew, we're gonna come back to you. You touched on finance a little bit, I think, but I know people maybe don't think about universities and researchers as sort of being key to unlocking finance, or sort of what the relationship might be. And so I wonder if you just have any thoughts about the role that universities and researchers can play when they're working with local communities in terms of, finance, and, what are some of the partnerships that maybe make sense there?
Does this work? Yep. I think from our experience in the Asia Pacific, there's a couple of things to touch on. One is public universities like Monash are not for profit, right? And we exist beyond electoral cycles. We exist for decades to come to build the next generation and develop the solutions that are going to solve some of these wicked challenges. So there's that for-purpose, long-term vision that universities can help steward and work with local actors, whether it's community groups, whether it's subnational governments, whether it's private sector as well at the local level. And that puts us in quite a privileged position to be able to play a neutral convening role. The challenge, of course, which you touched on earlier, is how do we make sure we don't squash local action, particularly when we think about being an Australian university working in the Asia Pacific. So we've done a lot of thinking around responsible research, how to amplify the work of others, how to genuinely listen and co-design the research and innovation programs with communities. We don't have all the solutions, but there is a growing consensus, it seems, that universities should and can play a much greater role in amplifying the work of local organisations. And the other quick thing I'd say is consortia funding, which was touched on before, is the way to go. We have to build pots of capital that blend philanthropy, government, community, university investments as well, beyond small projects. We need pots of capital that last for at least 10 years, 15 years, to do large-scale programmatic efforts at the capital. Because this current cycle of the grant treadmill, and I have to be provocative and say, you know, philanthropy's classic, the grant treadmill. You just secured one grant and you're already thinking about applying for the next grant. So universities and the research ecosystem can play a key role in terms of building those consortia as well. So a few thoughts there.
Thanks, Matthew. I'm glad I split up you and Jessica. I didn't know. But, okay, so give us extra time for the. We're gonna do the last two. We're going to hear from Joseph and then Bright, and then we're going to close it out. So Joseph, you already talked a little bit about finance and what's going on, and I think SDI has some great models about those sort of self-resilience, essentially, of communities, right? And I know accessing finance sometimes can be a challenge, and one of the things which we've talked about is in the absence of the global climate finance and the inability to access some of these larger funds, a lot of communities have to fund themselves, essentially. And there's certainly a climate justice element to that about the fairness of it, but it's a reality, right? And so I just wanted to, hear from you very briefly about what are some of the innovative things you've touched about that some of the SDI affiliates are doing, and how SDI is really trying to help to unlock this finance for climate action.
Thank you so much. Can I add one to my colleague academia, that when you also work with a community, also not necessarily you as a monarch, but also recognize that there is also some local knowledge. Because in the past, some academia come and they act like there's nothing on the ground, like it's something new. And really community members, they like it when they are involved. And when the research is done that you come back to say, this is what is the finding, what do we do? Thank you so much. Then from there, actually I'm privileged to be in a panel where I'm with colleagues whom we have been working together, even though I just met them physically, but Clara's colleague, we have been working together. Mlato have been working for years. But what is coming really is that, and academia has done a number of research. There is a big fundings in climate change, but it's not coming down. It's some way. We don't know. Like a quick example, GRP used to work with slum dwellers who would bring a big delegation, but this year, people are not funding GRP. We don't know why. And so it affected also us. But also there's some positive things which are happening. Before I come to the local, I want to highlight a good project we are working with the IID and the other 9 partners, which is supported by the Netherlands government, where we are really bringing, it's called Generating Ambition for Local Adaptation. And the IID has been so great in negotiating the grant and bringing everyone on board. And what we are doing, that funds is going to be on the ground, not really as an organization. It's going to be implementing local action. And some of the things it's going to support is, for example, my colleague spoke about the urban poor funds, where women supported by men came fundraising, doing some little they can, and then that grant is going to support and the kind of scale up. So that's the call we are making really. Communities are trying their best. In Senegal, they are coming together, they negotiate, they buy, or in Zambia, they buy in bulk, and then for the building materials, they make sure that those materials are climate change resistant. But what they need is just a little support. Communities in the Philippines, they are working in the garden to make sure that there's a fresh air, but also it reduces the heat. But they have done their part. But what is we are requested is just come support what initiatives they. Thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. I know you guys are doing a lot of incredible work, and I know scaling it is a big challenge, and that sometimes, it's a sort of a cycle of like, if you can't show it's scalable, it's hard to get the finance, but you can't get the finance to scale it. And I think, sometimes it's just about bringing attention to what's already being done and amplifying that. Okay, Bright, are you still with me on a Saturday morning in Zambia? Because I'm going to give you the last word. Yes, there you are. Okay, so last word. Very quickly. All right. If young people had access to more finance, right? If you guys could get more money, what are some of the ways I think that you could lead on, not me, sorry, that you think you could lead on innovative climate solutions? So if we gave you more money in your hands, what would you do?
It would be great if you gave us more money, actually, to help us young people to actually implement well what we are already doing. Some of the innovative stuff that we are doing, we're doing quite a lot. Here in Zambia, we have activities like hydroponics, we have activities like community gardens that we're doing. Young people involving themselves in activities like, when it comes to addressing issues of water and sanitation, all those activities that young people are engaged in. So if we were to be given more resources, it will actually help us push this agenda of speaking to these problems that people are facing in the community. And talking about finances, like people there alluded to, it's not easy to get access to these climate finances. We understand, we do hear that there is this climate finance monies that have been allocated to, mitigation and adaptation, but people at the grassroots level have no access because of maybe how difficult it is, the strategies or the ways in how they can apply for these finances and just have those finances come to them. It's very hard. But under the VCA, working with Slum Dwellers International, there's an initiative that was brought on board. It's a financial initiative called the Next Level Grant Facility. I think Joseph understands this very well, which is helping a lot of grassroots people. I'll talk about Zambia because this is my home nation, and just talking about what I'm seeing here. It has helped address a lot of challenges that people are facing, and it has helped people to implement initiatives and activities in line with climate adaptation and also climate initiatives, and also food security. It has also helped address all those issues. So I believe young people are innovative, young people are creative, and having access to these funds can just help, implement better all these initiatives. I think maybe Joseph can add on the next level grants. He knows well.
Great. Thank you, Bright. Unfortunately, we're going to have to close out here. I do want to thank the SDG Pavilion for this space, and I want to thank the panelists and everyone who joined for rolling with a slightly chaotic, but I think interesting panel, right? I enjoyed it. And I'll just say, if you want to come to another chaotic panel, hopefully this one will be less chaotic because, on Tuesday at 1, we'll be launching our report on climate finance for the urban poor. And I just want to close out by saying, I think there needs to be more spaces, I think, to bring together people who are really committed to locally led climate action. It is one of these kind of buzzwords, but I think actually having the space to talk about it and what it really means is still, especially in cities, and especially really fronting the communities and people representing those communities, including especially the youth that are working on these, is still not getting enough attention in these spaces. And so I thank you guys for joining this because I think it's an important topic. And with that, enjoy your Saturday. Bye.